Welcome to the Monday Mile edition of the Over 50 Health and Wellness Show, your quick hit of inspiration and practical advice to kickstart your week strong. Each Monday, I'll be joined by one of our Silver Edge coaches as we tackle one specific topic you might be struggling with, whether that's nutrition, fitness, mindset, or lifestyle, and we'll break it down into clear, simple, actionable tips you can start using today. And here's the best part, you can knock out this episode on your morning walk. Just lace up those sneakers, hit the pavement, and let us coach you through the first mile of the week. Okay, let's get moving. Coach Russell, welcome back to the Monday Mile edition of the Over 50 Health and Wellness Podcast. Man, how's it going?
Thanks, Coach Kevin. I'm doing great.
Right on, brother. All right, so we are going to talk about some easy meal prep hacks today. I think one of the biggest challenges for anybody looking to really up their nutrition game is having healthy food ready and accessible. And I feel like a lot of people are just overwhelmed by the idea of meal prep. When I think meal prep, I think, the way my wife does it, right? She's making these wonderful creations. She's going to put them into individual Tupperwares, or you think about the bodybuilder community who's doing a whole week's tilapia or chicken and rice and broccoli and individually weighing them and putting it. Man, who got time for all of that, right? So this podcast, I thought what we would do is, because I think you and I probably are similar here, and neither one of us is, I don't want to speak for you, but I am not going to be making fancy creations for myself for my meal prep, but I do meal prep every single week. So I want this podcast to be for those of you maybe that are challenged with time, which I'm guessing that's everybody, or maybe you're not really into the whole, I'm going to spend a whole day shopping and meal prepping so that I have healthy alternatives throughout the week. So, Russell, why don't we start with some of your favorite ideas when it comes to meal prep? What are you doing so that you got food for, I guess, for you and the boys, really, right, throughout the week?
Yeah, I have two different statements for this. So one was, obviously, I used to be a cop, and as anybody can imagine, I don't have a fluffy office. I don't have a microwave. I don't have a lot of things to use. So I had to think ahead, like what would be optimal for me to have while I'm patrolling or doing what I need to do. And a lot of it was sandwich wraps. I'd take the wraps and meat in there, or have something that I didn't necessarily need to be heated up, because most of the time it wasn't an option. So white rice was a rarity when I would meal prep back then, because I don't know about you, but I can't eat cold rice. It's pretty hard to eat.
Cold rice in your wrap doesn't sound so good.
Or just cold rice and chicken, and it's hard to choke down.
Right.
So
yeah,
a lot of times it was like, sweet potatoes I could eat cold, or things like that. I mean, obviously there are times where I could heat it up, but it wasn't always a given. But now I work from home. I have two, teenage boys. So a lot of it is prep to meat. So what I'll do is, I'm a big fan of chicken thighs. The kids love it. Teriyaki marinade. Super easy to do. Get this big Ziploc bag, throw the teriyaki or the chicken thighs, teriyaki in there, whatever you need. And then the next day I'll grill it or even air fry it, depending on what I'm doing. That's a big one. Any kind of meat, obviously. But it's just about thinking one day ahead of the meal prep on the marinades. I mean, you can get away with like some of these 30-minute marinade to get away with it. So a lot of that, air fryer, a rice cooker, and a slow cooker,
a couple of your go-tos there.
Three favorite to have. And it just makes meal prep so much easier. So I would mostly get all my proteins meal prepped separately. Now that I'm at home, I could piece it together, and the boys can grab it. I'll cook a bunch of sweet potatoes. I'll cook a bunch of rice. Usually my vegetables, I'm a little particular with my vegetables, so I like them a little al dente. So what I'll do is I'll have the raw vegetable, and I'll just microwave it right before I eat it, and it's got a little crunch to it still, and it's a super easy way to do it. I love cooking, but I'm not making this masterful meal piece every time. That's, once or twice a week, I'll make something really nice just because I love cooking. But other than that, it's a lot of that.
Pretty practical, just no nonsense.
Yeah.
And so, and look, I don't love cooking. My kids are grown out of the house. So it's just my wife and I, and she works out of the house. I work in the house. So I'm responsible for myself for breakfast, second breakfast, lunch, my afternoon snack, and then my wife comes. She loves to cook, and she's very, very good at it. So I'm very fortunate there that I have a wonderful meal every night. But I don't like to cook. But I find that, just in the day to day, if I don't do meal prep, I'm in trouble. I'm gonna,
Yeah.
if I go to the fridge and I open it up and there's nothing there, or I go to the pantry and that, what's in there just is going to take me 30 minutes to prepare, and I've got another call or a podcast to record or something like that. I'm like, crap, and I'm making the not best decisions. So, like you, I start with protein first. I got a couple of tips here. Mine, I do some in the crock pot. I will say that, but I'm mostly a grill guy. I'm pretty boring. I'll buy like 2 pounds of ground beef, lean ground beef. Sometimes I'll switch that. It might be bison, it might be turkey, but I'll make 6 patties out of 2 pounds of ground meat, and I'll just go ahead and put those on the grill. That's my food for the next few lunches. I'll do chicken thighs, or boneless, skinless chicken thighs on the grill are one of my favorite. I'll buy that great big pack, sometimes two, cover the whole grill with them, cook them up, throw them in a giant glass Tupperware, and I'll just eat on those. I'll eat them cold, I'll heat them up, I'll chop them up and cook them with some other things sometime. But I just have that, I've got that ready to go. I've always got a protein that's ready to rock and roll that I can eat. Don't need to think about it. I'm a big fan of sweet potatoes. So like you, I'll make a bunch of sweet potatoes when I make sweet potatoes. I think they're marvelous. You can eat them cold, eat them not so cold. I make a gruel. I'm going to share my secret
Mhm.
gruel recipe with you. It's really simple. I'll take, like, again, 2 pounds of any ground meat, and I'll cook that up. I'll buy one of those big bags of mixed vegetables, frozen vegetables. And as the meat's kind of almost done, I'll just dump those in. So they're getting cooked in with the meat. And then separate, I got my rice going off. It's cooking. So I'm cooking a whole bunch of rice. And then remember, I've got several of these great big, almost cauldron like glass Tupperwares. I'll throw everything in there and just stir it together. In it, I like it just plain. I can pop it in the microwave. I can throw, if it's not fancy, a little salsa and cheese on there. In the morning, I might throw that in a pan with a little beef tallow, warm it up, and then crack a few eggs over it. That's a marvelous way to go. But that's just that big, very versatile pot of gruel. So that's one. Let's see, what else? Oh, hard-boiled eggs. In fact, somebody in our Facebook, the private Facebook group, our Lean Body Blueprint Facebook group, just posted, I think it was Larry, he's one of our A guys in the group. He's always coming up with good stuff. He was like, hey, if you love hard-boiled eggs, but you think they're a pain in the ass to get the shell off, try this. And he had a idea of putting them, I think it was like 20 minutes in an air fryer. Is that what
Mhm.
it was?
Yep.
I saved the post because I'm going to try it next time I do hard-boiled eggs. But I love taking a dozen eggs, hard-boil them, and then peel them, put them in a Tupperware. They're stinky if you don't put them in a Tupperware with a cover in your fridge. And then just you can snack on those. That's a really good one. What else? Oh, overnight oats. Big
Oh
fan of
yeah,
overnight
yeah.
oats. Again, if I'm being intentional about tracking, I might put them in separate jars. These days, I'm pretty much dumping a bunch of oatmeal into,
Yeah.
again, a great big glass Tupperware bowl. I'm going to put some whole milk. I'm going to put definitely a bunch of protein powder, a whole bunch, because I want a high protein breakfast. I'm going to throw some chia seeds in there. I'm going to throw some pumpkin seeds in there. And I'm going to put a whole bunch of blueberries in there. I'm just stir that up, stick it in the fridge overnight, and then I'm just glopping some out in the morning. I'm eating it cold. I might pour a little bit more milk on it, maybe, maybe not. But that's another go-to here at the house. And then, Russell, I got one I'm going to share with you. This is
Mhm.
brand new for me. I saw this, I guess, on Instagram or Facebook or somewhere on social media. I've got it on my phone. I screenshot the ingredients and how much of each
Oh, I do
goes in
that
there.
too.
But Greek yogurt, it's cottage cheese, it's almond flour,
Mm.
it's
Just for a pancake?
protein powder. It's not going to make a pancake. Nope. The recipe is cookie dough batter. So it's like if you're going to eat
Oh,
cookie dough batter.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's going to have that consistency and texture, hence the almond flour in there. So I've got almond flour, I've got Greek yogurt, cottage cheese. Crap, I'm going to have to oh, I can't look it up. I'm using the camera here. Shoot.
Mm.
Got cottage cheese. I got some cinnamon, some vanilla, lots of protein powder. And then the recipe calls for chocolate chips. I put blueberries in there, mix all that up, and that's my dessert. I'll
Mm.
have like a cup of that for dessert. Is delicious, as you might imagine. Very,
Uh,
very high protein.
you'll have to share that because I've tried a couple because I'm a big cookie dough fan, and I've tried a couple of the healthy cookie doughs, and they were just, they look
Yeah,
way
this
better
one,
than
I'm a
they
fan of
tasted.
this one.
Yeah.
And look, this is about the peak of my culinary escapades right here. This is really pushing the limit. Since there's no cooking, I'm in there. But yeah, I'll tell you what, folks, if you're listening to this and if you're not already in the Lean Body Blueprint, the Over 50 Lean Body Blueprint Facebook group, it's free, but it's a private Facebook group. You have to request to join. Get in there and I will post this recipe when I'll wait until this episode goes live and then I will post that recipe in there so you guys can find that there. But that's one of my new favorites. I've just
Right.
found that like a week or two ago. I've made it a couple times now and the last time I made it, I doubled the recipe and I'm due to make it again.
I'll tell you what, a big one in our house is either pulled chicken or pulled pork. And that's where I
Yeah.
love my crock pot, because I'll throw the
Yeah.
whole pork butt in there, some
Yeah.
Dr. Pepper, and season it, and let it
Interesting.
let it
All
go
right.
overnight. The smell just kills you in the
Uh-huh.
morning. In the morning, you're like, "Oh my God, that's outstanding." And what I'll do is I'll shred it and I'll put some of the sugar-free barbecue sauce in there. And what the
Mm-hmm.
kids and I use it for is pulled pork quesadillas. And that one goes
Oh, yeah.
wildfire in the house.
Is that
So,
right? And
yeah.
boys
Oh
are
my
on for that,
God. Like,
right?
I got to
Yeah.
make more and more of that each time. And I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have showed in this. I want it all to
Okay.
myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and,
Well,
and
I'll do that pork butt every once in a while because that's
yeah,
a lot of meat, and
it
usually
is.
that's a value buy, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then
I'm not.
I'm not a big chicken breast fan, but when I do pulled, I do it like shredded. And the reason
Hmm.
why, you throw it in salad, you could throw it in like that quesadilla thing I was talking about, and
Yeah.
you could use it for
Yeah.
different things. Yeah, so that usually saves my chicken breast. I'm not a huge chicken breast fan.
I'm not. Yeah. Chicken
Yeah,
breast. It just makes me sad.
it's one
So
up. That
I'm
is one I'll
curious.
use.
How do you cook your chicken breast?
All it is I just season it. Again, I'll put in some base, like a little bit of a base liquid. Sometimes it's the barbecue
Hmm.
sauce. And then I'll just, when
Hmm.
I shred it and I'll mix it in a container, I'll
So
put
is it
some
in?
more
But is
sauce
it
in it.
going in a crock pot or
Yeah,
is it going
crock
on the
pot. Yeah,
grill
I'll
or
just throw four or
crock pot?
five
Okay, so you're
chicken
crock
breasts in
potting
it.
it.
Yeah, just no brainer. I mean,
Okay.
press a
Could I
button
throw a
and
little bone broth in there for
you you
the
can.
liquid and then
Yep,
salt, pepper,
yep,
garlic powder and
yep,
cook it for put it in the morning and have it ready
yep.
for dinner and then shred it, huh?
Yeah, and I use it a lot with, salads. That's my go-to with
Mm-hmm.
salads, because you don't have
Mm-hmm.
to, you just throw it in there. It doesn't have to be heated or anything. So it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. All
Yeah.
right.
The only thing I tell people, especially those of you who don't like to cook, pick something easy, something you can do consistently, and something that tastes good, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a great one is teriyaki chicken thighs, right? Just have those ready. Those are super easy to make. It's a no-brainer. Just the sauce, let it marinate. Next day, air fry it. And what happens is you get that down to like a science to where you're doing it in less than 5 minutes. Then you add
Mm-hmm.
another meal, right? And another go-to meal. And then you
Yeah.
can switch these meals out and do all kinds of stuff. I think a lot of times people get overwhelmed. They try to do everything at once.
They do.
Yeah. So
Right.
start
Right.
slow.
And it's a turn off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Start slow. Start with protein, start slow. And really, in the spirit of keeping it simple, just cook enough for an army. I mean, if you're cooking, say, chicken thighs or chicken breast or ground beef or hamburgers, whatever, it doesn't matter. Cook enough for an entire army. Cook way more than you think you need for your household, and that way it's always there. Now you have to be, you don't want to be wasteful. You have to be consistent and actually eat it. But I find that when I take the time to meal prep, and we typically Sundays we're meal prepping in the house, and that's it's less. If my wife's doing it, it's probably a half a day affair, and it's gourmet. But if I'm doing it, it's an hour. But mostly what I'm doing is when it comes time hey, I'm out of protein. I just go next time I'm shopping, I buy a whole bunch and I cook it all at once. It doesn't take me that any longer to cook 10 cheeseburgers than it does to cook one cheeseburger. It's the same amount of time,
Yeah.
practically speaking. So go ahead.
And if you're eating your goal weight in protein, I guarantee you're not wasting any. I mean,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's hard to waste right there.
Yep. So, what Russell's talking about there is eating 1 gram of protein per pound of your ideal or goal body weight. You've heard us say that time and time again on this show. And yes, if you are, if you're a 220-pound guy, you want to weigh 200 pounds, then having a goal of eating 200 grams of protein a day is a great goal. That's a lot of protein.
Yeah.
Having some sort of a strategy around meal prep is going to be essential for you to be consistent in eating in that way. So I am a big fan of keeping it really simple. Start small. I like starting with protein. Then, as Russell said, find one thing that maybe you're grilling something, maybe it's a crock pot recipe, but something that's easy. Make a whole bunch of it, get used to that, and then start another meal. And then maybe move on to your carbohydrates. And what do you like? Rice? Do you like sweet potatoes, regular potatoes? What does that look like for you? And then maybe experiment with having fruits, vegetables in the house ready to go. Maybe that's frozen veggies, frozen fruits, things like that. Some simple ideas. All right, folks. Well, there you go. That's what we've got for you for today's Monday Mile. And if you found this helpful, chime in. We'd love to hear your favorite meal prep hacks or meal prep recipes. And you can chime in at the Over 50 Lean Body Blueprint private Facebook group. If you're not already a member, get over there. What are you doing? We'd love to have you in there. But chime in over there. And like I said, I'll drop my recipe for that cookie dough recipe that's really easy. It's just you make it in the afternoon, stick it in the fridge. It's ready the next morning. It's just kind of an overnight sort of thing, sets up. All right. Well, Russell, that's what we've got for today. We thank you guys for joining us. And until next time, stay strong. Okay, folks, that is your Monday Mile for this week. Quick, simple, and packed with power. If you found this helpful, be sure to share it with a friend who's walking their own path to better health. And hey, don't forget to tune in this Wednesday for our full-length episode of the Over 50 Health and Wellness Show. Until then, keep walking, stay consistent, and as always, stay strong.